Have you ever wondered why suddenly every landlord in your town decided that their rundown one-bedroom apartment is now worth Manhattan penthouse money? Here you are, drinking yesterday's cold coffee out of a paper cup, opening a housing app, and your exact apartment, the one with the leaking faucet and the faint smell of someone else's cat food, is now $450 more expensive. Ugh. And you're sitting there like, oh, did they build a new Disneyland down the street? Or did a portal to heaven open up next door? Nope, man. Just on the other side of the country, a server in a data center generated a fresh batch of financial hell for your wallet. Welcome to the era of algorithmic collusion. Back in the good old days, around the time your dad was 20 and could buy a house for 3 Coca-Cola bottle caps and a firm handshake, the rental market ran on the law of the jungle. There was Uncle Bob, who owned 5 apartments, and there was Aunt Sarah, who had a hastily slapped-together unit across the street. Uncle Bob wanted $800, but Aunt Sarah said, "Screw you, Bob, I'll rent mine for $750 and take your tenant." That was competition. That was fair. But imagine Uncle Bob and Aunt Sarah don't talk to each other anymore. Instead, they both hired the same bald guy in a 3-piece suit who sits in a dark room, stares at a screen, and tells them both, "Listen up, idiots! You're both raising your rent to $2,200, and if half your apartments sit empty, I don't give a damn, you'll still make more off the desperate fools who have no choice." This isn't a conspiracy theory for guys wearing tinfoil hats. This is a real story about a friend of mine from Austin, Texas. The guy lives in a standard complex. Nothing special. A parking lot, a dying bush near the entrance, and a pool with the same half-deflated pink flamingo floating in it since 2018. He lived there for 3 years. Then he gets a letter. "Dear Greg, we appreciate that you pay on time and don't set the trash chute on fire. Therefore, starting next month, your rent goes from $1,600 to $2,050. Greg, being a normal guy, walks down to the leasing office. A girl with a smile like a Roomba vacuum listens to him, and he says, "Listen, 30% of the units in this complex are sitting empty. I see them at night, the lights are off. By market logic, you should be dropping prices to pull people in." And she looks at him through her fake eyelashes and calmly goes, "Oh, we don't decide that. The software calculates it." The software, man. The whole scheme relies on program algorithms collecting private data from thousands of apartment complexes across the country. Instead of landlords competing for you by offering lower prices or better perks, this software tells them, "Keep the prices high together. Don't drop. If you all jack up the price at the same time, these losers have nowhere to go. They'll whine, sell a kidney, or live on instant ramen, but they'll pay." It's like every gas station in your neighborhood agreeing to sell gas for $50 a gallon. What are you gonna do? Switch to a pony? Walk 40 miles on the highway to work? No, you'll sigh, curse the universe, and stick the pump in your tank. And the funniest part of this whole psychological mind trick is that they created an artificial shortage. They are deliberately keeping apartments empty. Think about that absurdity. It used to be that an empty apartment was a landlord's nightmare. It meant losing money every single day. Now the software shows them charts saying if you have 10 units and rent them at $1,000, you make 10 grand. But if you rent 7 units at $1,600 and leave 3 empty, you make $11,200. And you don't even have to fix up those 3 units after tenants leave. The math is literally telling them being an extortionist pays better than being a decent landlord. And what does the average guy do? He looks at it and thinks, "Man, I guess I'm just not working hard enough. Must be inflation. Shipping costs went up." Hell no! It's just a corporate algorithm calculating how much blood it can drain from you before you break down and move into a tent under a bridge. The takeaway here isn't to go smash data servers. The takeaway is to finally take off the rose-colored glasses and realize when they tell you that's market rate, 90% of the time, it's not the market, it's digital racketeering. When you're apartment hunting and see prices in a big complex jumping daily like crypto, $1,800 today, 1920s by Thursday, know that you're not dealing with a human. You're dealing with an algorithm designed to leave you with just enough cash for bread and water. Once you get that, you at least stop blaming yourself for your paycheck not keeping up with a market that doesn't actually exist. You know that awesome feeling when you spot an apartment listing online? You check the photos, bright room, nice windows, price tag reads, say $1,700 a month. You think to yourself, wow, that's practically a steal. Maybe the universe is finally smiling at me instead of just stress testing my remaining brain cells. You pull out your phone calculator, run your budget, and hey, there's even enough left over to order a warm pizza once a week. Then you go to sign the lease. That's when the magic trick starts, making Harry Potter look like an amateur. The girl in the leasing office pulls out a 40-page document printed in font size 6. So tiny you'd need a lab microscope to read it. And she starts listing it out. All right, so $1,700 is the base rent. Then we have a mandatory trash fee of $45, pest control fee of $30, mandatory tech service package of $65. That's in case your toilet leaks and Bob the plumber comes 3 weeks later, looks at it, and sighs. Oh, and $20 for access to our online portal. Wait, you say. $20 a month just for the privilege of paying you your own money on a website? Bingo! And if you want to pay with a paper check, that's a $50 paper processing fee. Just like that, your awesome $1,700 apartment magically morphs into $2,150 a month. It's like going to a restaurant, ordering a $20 steak, and getting a bill that says, steak, $20, plate rental, $5, fork usage, $3. Chair wear and tear fee, $8. But the absolute cherry on top of this garbage sundae is the security deposit. That is the single biggest myth of the 21st century. They tell you, give us $2,000 right now, and as long as you don't smash the walls with a sledgehammer or raise 3 raccoons in the bedroom, we'll give it back when you move out. And like a gullible kid, you tiptoe around that apartment for 3 years, you barely breathe on the walls. If a drop of water hits the floor, you wipe it up with your own t-shirt in 0.2 seconds flat. You move out, scrubbing the floors so clean you could perform open-heart surgery on them. A month goes by, you're waiting for your $2,000 check. A letter arrives. Inside is an itemized bill. Deep carpet cleaning for a carpet you never wore shoes on, $450. Wall repainting due to normal wear, $800. Light bulb replacement in the hallway, $75. Deposit processing fee, $100. Total balance, you owe us $25. Thanks for staying with us. A friend of mine got caught in this exact trap. Let's call him Dan. Dan lived in an apartment for 2 years, and when he moved out, the management company tried to stick him with a $1,200 bill for kitchen counter stains. But Dan wasn't taking that lying down. He pulled out his phone and showed them a video, a crystal clear 4K walkthrough from day one, recorded the second he stepped inside with his bopses. The video clearly showed those exact same stains left behind by the previous tenant, with Dan stating the date and time out loud. You know what the company said? Oh, oops, system glitch. 5 minutes later, the money was back in his bank account. A system glitch, meaning if he didn't have that video, the system would have happily pocketed $1,200 out of thin air. That's not a glitch, that's their business model. They count on 9 out of 10 people just throwing their hands up, cursing, and walking away because nobody has the time or energy to fight over $1,000. They've turned fine print and deposits into a legal shakedown to squeeze every last dime out of you. The system is set up to make you think this is just the cost of adulting, like it's as natural as snow in winter or rush hour traffic at 5 p.m. But when you start adding up those little things, $30 here, $50 there, a stolen deposit over there, you realize that over a few years, you just handed some random suit at an investment fund the price of a decent used car. Once you look at it clearly, you stop feeling like a sucker. You realize that every dollar they try to sneak between the lines isn't standard procedure. It's just their way of dumping their operating costs straight onto your TAD. And the only thing standing between your deposit and their pockets isn't their conscience, because they don't have one. It's that time-stamped video you took on day one. Picture this. You walk into a bank. You're wearing a crisp jacket, smiling, papers organized in a neat folder. Sitting across from you is a loan officer in a shirt so heavily starched it looks like it might snap if he breathes too hard. You sit down and say, "All right, sir. I'm looking to buy a small starter home. The monthly mortgage payment will be $1,500. The officer adjusts his glasses, scans your file, and gives you a look like you just asked him to accept Monopoly money. Oh, goodness, no. $1,500 a month is way too much of a financial risk for your income. You can't afford that. Application denied. You pause, take a deep breath, and reply, "Wait a second. I've paid $2,200 a month in rent every single month for 6 straight years. Never missed a day. On time, every time. If I can pay $2,200 to some random landlord for his place, why can't I pay $1,500 for my house?" And right there, the banker hits you with the peak logic of modern finance. Well, rent is rent, but a mortgage is a real responsibility. According to bank logic, throwing $200 a month into a black hole where it vanishes forever is proof of your temporary survival skills. But paying $700 less for a place you actually own is a dangerous gamble that could collapse the global economy. A buddy of mine, let's call him Mark, got trapped in this exact loop. Mark works in tech, works from home, drank an ocean of coffee, and over 8 years of renting, paid his landlord over $200,000. That's the price of a pretty nice home in most suburban towns. One day, Mark decided to get a mortgage. He brought his bank statements, 96 consecutive rental payments, 0 delays, even through a pandemic and a recession. You know what the bank said? Unfortunately, your history of paying rent on time isn't factored into your credit score. However, 6 years ago, you were 2 days late paying a $40 internet bill. That hit your credit hard. That's like going to the gym, squatting 450 pounds for 100 reps, and having the trainer go, "Nah, man, doesn't count toward your fitness, because 3 years ago you tripped over a curb." The system is rigged, so renters are literally blocked from proving their financial responsibility using the same rules banks play by. When you pay a mortgage, every credit bureau on earth celebrates your discipline. When you pay rent, you're just anonymously funding your landlord's vacation to the Bahamas while the system pretends you don't exist. And the funniest joke of all is the down payment requirement. They tell you, you need $50,000 in cash right now for a down payment. Where is anyone supposed to get 50 grand when 60% of their paycheck goes straight to rent? That's like telling a drowning guy in the ocean, "We'll save you, but only if you swim to shore first and buy your own life jacket." The system closed the loop. You can't save for a down payment because your rent is sky high, and you can't get a mortgage because you don't have a down payment, even though you're already dropping more money every month than the loan would cost. Once you look at this without the hype, you stop feeling like you're bad with money. You realize it's not because you suck at budgeting or buy too many avocado toasts. It's because the rules were never written for you to become an owner. They were written to keep you subscribed to housing forever. Next up, luxury living with drywall and sticks. No boring lectures about checking the pipes. Just pure sarcasm about how cardboard boxes slapped with gray paint get sold as castles. You've definitely seen these ads online. It's a masterclass in marketing. Luxury modern apartments. You click the photos and everything is gray, sleek, and so Instagrammable. Granite countertops or plastic engineered to look like granite from 10 feet away, brushed nickel door handles, and matte black faucets. You look at it and think, finally, I'm going to live like a successful adult instead of a college kid in a basement. You sign the contract. Move your boxes in. Sit down on the couch that evening. Crack open a beer. And suddenly, you hear your upstairs neighbor making tea. No, you don't just hear the kettle click. You hear him take the first sip, sigh, and you hear his stomach digest a ham sandwich. Welcome to new construction with paper-thin walls. Over the last decade, developers cracked a genius code. Why build with real brick and concrete floors when you can slap together plywood, drywall, and good vibes, then cover the whole thing in matte gray paint? It's called the cosmetic luxury hustle. A guy I know, let's call him Eric, rented one of these luxury studios in a brand new complex. It looked like $1 million. Neon lighting in the lobby, smart locks you open with your phone, and an espresso machine downstairs that was permanently broken. Rent was $2,400 a month. A week passes. Eric starts learning more about his downstairs neighbor than his own parents. Every morning at 6:30 a.m., the neighbor's phone alarm goes off on vibrate. The phone is sitting on a nightstand, but thanks to premium building tech, Eric's floor starts shaking like a Boeing 747 taking off under his bed. Whenever the neighbor sneezes, Eric automatically says, "Bless you," and the guy below goes, "Thanks, Eric." They've never even met face to face. And when the first snow falls in winter, it turns out those floor-to-ceiling designer windows leak freezing air like someone forgot to put glass in and just stretched plastic wrap over the frame. When he complains, management goes, "Oh, but it's an aesthetic. Check out that view of the parking lot." The point is, developers aren't building places to last 100 years anymore. They build them for a 15-minute walkthrough impression. They grab the cheapest materials, buy bottom-tier gray vinyl flooring in bulk that bubbles up if you spill a single glass of water, screw in a $20 smart lock from Amazon, and brand it a smart executive suite. That gives them the green light to jack up the price 40% higher than the 1990s building next door, where the walls can't be punched through with a thumb. It's like buying a 1998 beater car, spray painting it gloss black, sticking a Ferrari badge on the hood, and trying to sell it for supercar money. And what does the tenant do? He pays for luxury, then spends extra cash on white noise machines, earplugs, and higher heating bills because the sleek minimalism lets drafty wind blow right through the gaps in the plywood. The takeaway is simple and sobering. When a landlord points out smart home features and pretty gray walls, they aren't trying to make your life comfortable. They're trying to distract you from the fact that the building was put together with sawdust and duct tape. Real quality is peace, quiet, and insulation, not opening your front door with your face over Bluetooth. Marketing guys and financial influencers love singing this tune. You know the one? Renting is freedom. You're not tied down to a plot of land. You're a citizen of the world. Want to change? Pack a bag, hop in your car, move to the beach, and let homeowners stress over their 30-year mortgage chains. Sounds amazing, right? Almost like an ad for coconut rum or running shoes. But let's step down from Fantasyland for a second and look at how that amazing freedom of mobility actually plays out when you try to change apartments. Picture this. You land a job in another city, or maybe you just realized your upstairs neighbors took up competitive tap dancing at 3 a.m. You tell your landlord, "Thanks for everything, I'm out next month." That's when your freedom hand delivers its price tag. first obstacle, the early termination fee. Your landlord looks at you with profound sorrow in his eyes and says, "Oh, you want to be free? No problem. That'll be a penalty equal to 2 months' rent. Plus, we keep your deposit. Oh, and give us 3 months' notice, or pay for the months while we look for another sucker." So your freedom kicks off with a negative $6,000 balance just for the right to haul your own underwear out the door. But wait, the fun is just starting. You find a new place. What does the new landlord demand? 1. Application fees. $75 to $100 just to let a bot run your credit report. Applied to 3 places? You're down $300. 2. First, last, and a fresh security deposit. So your freedom kicks off with a negative $6,000 balance just for the right to haul your own underwear out the door. But wait, the fun is just starting. You find a new place. What does the new landlord demand? 1. Application fees. $75 to $100 just to let a bot run your credit report. Applied to 3 places? You're down $300. 2. First, last, and a fresh security deposit. Steve was over the moon. "This is it. My career is taking off. Long live rental freedom." He added up the damage. Broken lease penalty, lost deposit, new deposit, truck rental, movers, and fresh application fees. Grand total, $11,000 out of pocket. Just to break even on that lucrative move, Steve had to work his new job for almost a year and a half. The entire time. His raise wasn't going toward a better life or savings. It was paying off the debt incurred from moving his own body and a few boxes across state lines. It's a hilarious paradox. The system markets renting as flexibility, but makes the price of moving so astronomical that you end up terrified to move an inch. You become a tenant, locked into your zip code, not out of love for the neighborhood, but because you don't have a spare $5,000 lying around for a move-out checklist. When you look past the marketing noise, you realize real mobility comes from having capital. Rental mobility is just an illusion you pay through the nose for every time you try to swap out the scenery in your personal cage. So, we've broken down the whole circus. We looked at algorithms rigging prices, hidden fees, outdated banking rules, cardboard walls, and the myth of the free-spirited traveler. At this point, any sane person is asking, "All right, man, I get it. The system has me in a vice grip. But what am I supposed to do now? Move into a tent under a bridge or wait around for a relative to leave me a house?" Society usually shoves one of 2 extreme answers down your throat. Extreme number 1 comes from financial purists screaming, "Buy a house no matter what. Cut everything. Take on a 30-year debt. Eat canned beans but own your dirt." Extreme number 2 comes from lifestyle influencers saying, "Live for today. Buy the sneakers, eat out, renting is fine. We're all gonna die anyway." Both of those options are a fast track to disaster. Let's look at cold, hard numbers without the emotional hype around homeownership. A lot of people assume that the second you buy a house, you magically become wealthy. That's totally false. If you buy a house at the top of the market with a 7% or 8% interest rate, you aren't paying for ownership. You're paying bank interest where, for the first 10 years, 80% of your check goes straight to the bank's pocket, not your house equity. You're paying property taxes that go up every year, home insurance, and repairs for roofs, pipes, and foundations that are now your problem, not a landlord's. If you do the math, in plenty of major cities right now, paying a mortgage with taxes and maintenance cost 30% to 40% more than renting the exact same place. And here's the core trick real estate agents will never bring up. A friend of mine, let's call him Alex, ran the math on this until his brain hurt. His coworker bought a house for $450,000, drained his savings, and now his monthly payment with taxes and repairs sits at $3,400 a month. He's house poor, can't afford a vacation, and panics every time something shifts at work. Alex looked at that and took a totally different route. He rents a modest, perfectly fine apartment for $2,000. But the difference, that $1,400 a month, he isn't dumping into a high-interest mortgage. He doesn't blow on a new iPhone or fancy dinners. He set up an automatic transfer and buys low-cost index funds every single month. 8 years pass. His coworker paid a fortune in bank interest, fixed 2 broken pipes, and owns a house that went up slightly in value, but is tough to sell without heavy agent fees and taxes. Alex has $180,000 in liquid cash sitting in a brokerage account that he can access in 3 mouse clicks. He isn't chained to a specific pile of bricks, but he's definitely not broke. The math is dead simple. Renting isn't a loss if you don't blow the savings on junk. If the housing market went insane, you don't have to join the insanity. Housing is just a service, like electricity or internet. You're buying shelter over your head for a period of time. But if you want to break out of the rent trap, your goal isn't necessarily to buy a house at all costs. Your goal is to build wealth outside the walls you sleep in. So what's the bottom line here? The system is engineered to extract maximum cash from your basic need for shelter. They use algorithms, hidden fees, rigid credit rules, and flashy ads to keep you hooked on monthly payments. But the moment you stop viewing housing as a status symbol or your only life investment, you take the steering wheel back. Don't let them panic you into bad moves. Rent below your maximum budget, not right on the edge of breaking. Document everything with photos and receipts from day one. Invest the difference in liquid assets instead of somebody else's equity. Renting only becomes a prison when you hand over every dollar you make and leave yourself 0 shot at building your own wealth. Once you understand the game, you stop being a target and start playing by your own rules.